Unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time. I just noticed something funny. I use the same template each time I record these things. And so I load up the old recording, I delete the old recording, and then I start fresh, basically with the same file. But as I was deleting, I noticed that in my last recording, there were two instances of the outro song, one which happened in the middle of the song. So that's what I get for not listening. Whoever listened to that last recording had to listen to the outro song halfway through the recording and at the end. Anyway, my apologies. Kinda, not really. Who gives a shit, right? What, two people? Nobody even mentioned it, so. Oh, boy. Anyway, on to today's topic, which is honesty, I think. Few things are more annoying in life than having your views misrepresented by somebody else, or things that you've done misrepresented by someone else. You know, it's just, okay, let's all disagree about things, fine, but you have to represent my actions and my words correctly. Otherwise, it's not a difference in opinion. It's simply just wrong. You know, it's a lie. If you rephrase me in a way that doesn't jibe with what I actually feel, then you're wrong. It's not a difference of opinion. You're just simply wrong. Maybe it could be a misunderstanding, you know, but either way, you're either wrong and you know it, or you're wrong and you don't know it, you know. And being wrong and not knowing it, there's nothing wrong with being wrong. It's fine to be wrong. I'm wrong all the time. I'm wrong 99% of the time because I'm viewing the world through my little perspective on this planet, you know. And so anytime I make any kind of statement or, anytime I speculate about the universe beyond what I can see, chances are I'm wrong about most of it. You know, that's just the nature of things. We're mostly wrong all the time. The only things you can really be right about are expressing how you see things, you know? You can accurately represent your opinion, which may be right or wrong, you know? But you can be right about your wrongness, you know? You can say, yes, this is exactly what I think about this thing of which I'm wrong, you know, or right, or whatever. Anyway, so you know that I'm not good at shutting up. The advice my grandmother gave me has never, ever worked, which was, if you're wrong, admit it. If you're right, shut up. It's like, I'm good at the first part. I'm really good about being wrong. I don't have my personal self-esteem is not based in being right. It's based in being probably fair. I think if I derive any esteem whatsoever about anything, it's that I'll be fair. I will admit when I'm wrong. Now, the shutting up when I'm right part, that's where things take an ugly turn. I'm not good at letting things go. If somebody's misunderstanding me, I have the tenacity and the endurance to keep going until understanding is established. Until a person can accurately repeat back what I've represented, I can't go with, we don't agree. I'm like, well, how do we know if we agree if we haven't established that we both understand each other? You know? And the way we establish that is I say, you tell me how you think, and then I repeat back and rephrase what you think, and you either approve it or disapprove it. You go, no, that's not what I said. That's not what I think. And we go until both people can go, yes, you now understand what I've said and what I think. Anyway, I have the endurance. I have the stamina to keep going. I don't know why. I suppose it's because I've set up my life with an open-ended schedule. I don't put things on the calendar. Literally, I don't. If somebody asks me to put something on the calendar, hey, do you want to do this thing next Tuesday at 7 o'clock? My not so awesome response is usually, ask me next Tuesday around 6 o'clock. Give me a 60 minutes heads up. And I'll tell you, because I don't know what I'm going to be doing next Tuesday. I don't know how I'm going to feel. I don't know if I'm going to have a headache. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So I don't want to schedule something for next Tuesday. I get it. Most people listening to this is rolling their eyes because they live their life on a schedule. Most people don't like not having a schedule. They like having things on the calendar. But to me, if I have anything on the calendar, anything, I think about that thing on the calendar every 10 minutes until that thing comes up. It's just like having, is it Tuesday yet? Is it Tuesday? What day is it? Oh shit. What about Tuesday? What am I going to do? What am I going to wear on Tuesday? Do I really want to go? Do I really want to see this person on Tuesday? I don't think I really do. How long do I have to stay with this person on Tuesday? Anyway, so that's why I don't make plans for things next Tuesday. But that's also why I have the time to deal with the present moment. I don't have somewhere where I got to be at 4. Sometimes I'll pretend that. I'm not I want to make this, I want a full disclosure. I'm making a recording about being honest and authentic, but hey, I'm not saying that I'm the most honest and authentic person all the time, because I will and have lied to get myself out of meetups. Somebody will call me, hey, you want to do something in an hour? Oh shit, I'm not in town. Rather than just saying, no, I don't. Because I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I don't want to see you. It's not you, it's me. I just don't want the obligation. I'm here hanging out with I don't feel like having company. That would be the more upfront, honest thing to say. And sometimes, I'll tell you, sometimes I'll make up a lie to get out of shit like that. I don't know. Maybe I think other people probably do too. I'm not proud of it. But that's one of those times where, if I have to count back, when are the times that I lie? And it's usually like to get out of going to a thing without hurting somebody's feelings. I'll go over, but thanks for inviting me. Hey, I really appreciate the invitation. I really do. And I do, actually. That part isn't a lie. But unfortunately, I'm not going to, I'm getting better at telling the truth about that kind of thing, where I just go, no, I don't hang out with people anymore. I don't do that. Can I bring a flock of pigeons? Because I'll consider that. How many pigeons are going to be there? How many dogs are going to be there? What's the dog to human ratio? If it's not 100% to 0, all dogs or all pigeons, I probably don't want to show up. Because that one person's going to just be like, anyway, I'm beating around the bush. So I was misrepresented recently by an old colleague of mine. I'm starting to use the word colleague. I know I'm figuring out why old people use the word colleague. It's because too often we use the word friend. Like, I've got 5,000 Facebook friends. No, I don't. I don't have 5,000 Facebook friends. I don't have 5,000 friends. I got maybe 5 friends total in my whole life, you know? The rest are colleagues. But this guy was once kind of a friend. Comedian, moved to Britain. Weird guy. I met him through another comedian friend. Actually, I can't remember if I met him through my comedian friend or if I was hired first, but at some point, his publicist or a group that was working on trying to manage him or something hired me to take photographs, press photographs for him, of him. And we kind of hit it off. He was a weirdo, kind of a genius, kind of a weirdo. On the Monty Python, he's kind of, if you have to really summarize his humor, he's a satirist, but he mostly bites Monty Python. You know, he relies heavily on Monty Python. He's an Anglophile, anything British and old-fashioned, he likes so much that he upped and left San Francisco and moved there. But I had a long history with this guy. We went to protest events. Would come to my house, and we thought about writing a series together. We even had a couple of meetings. Come over to my house, we'll meet. And then I realized, yeah, this isn't going to work out. Neither one of us are collaborators. You know, we both want to run their show. So our attempts to collaborate were just like, there's no collaboration going to happen here. It's two people that have their way of doing things. And so nothing got off the ground that way. But, you know, I also became kind of his counselor, where I talked him off the ledge when he had dating problems, and, you know, in San Francisco, and I'd meet him out for a drink and try to talk. It was always felt like, I don't know. It was always this thing where I felt like he wanted to employ me as kind of a therapist to talk him through his issues with this girlfriend or that girlfriend or this woman that he dated or didn't date, and he couldn't figure out why he couldn't get laid, and he thought that I knew how to get laid. And yeah, it was weird. I kind of felt like this guy that was coaching him to do things that I didn't think he needed to do anyway, you know? Anyway, I remember one specific event where he and I went out for drinks to talk him off the ledge about some woman he got friend zoned a lot, you know. He didn't really have a way with women for whatever reason. And it wasn't because he wasn't a handsome guy. I'm not necessarily a handsome guy. He was frumpy and wore dirty suits and dirty clothes and had zero fashion sense. I had another kind of fashion sense, but my hygiene wasn't the best either. And, you know, if I had a stain on my suit, I'd circle it and, you know, turn it into a flower. So anyway, I remember one time we were out, and this woman came up, and really pretty woman. She goes, "Oh, Merkley, you're the greatest, blah, blah, blah." And it kind of was like a devastating moment for that to happen, you know, because I was literally there trying to coach him into confidence or something. Anyway, so we had, I guess, what would you call that? You'd call those kinds of things that friends would do together, you know? Get on the phone, talk somebody off the ledge, talk about ideas, religion, life. He was converting to Catholicism. I couldn't really understand that, but again, old school things. But anyway, so he moved to Great Britain, and I've watched him. Oh, by the way, there's a little backstory. He was married and divorced right before I first met him. He was still living with his ex-wife, I think. They still shared the apartment, but they were officially divorced. And he got married in drag, right? And he would come to parties at my house, and for whatever reason, I hung out with a lot of pretty ladies at the time. So at this party, there were a lot of pretty girls, you know, as was common with my parties. Anyway, he got up in the middle of the party and kind of stormed out And at one other time, he was back, and we were just hanging out at one of these writers' meetings, you know, where we were going to collaborate. And he was explaining why he was trans or a drag kind of guy, why he got married in drag. And he goes, here's the thing, is just like, I can't be around pretty women because I get incredibly jealous of them because I want to be them. I want to embody them. Right? And I was like, oh, okay, that's an interesting thing to admit. It shows some sort of self-awareness, you know. I think, you know, autogynephilia is one of the real reasons why a lot of men become transvestites, you know, because it's a sexual turn on for them, you know. They're so entranced by womanhood that they want to become that they want to fuck, is I guess the way you might want to say it. Anyway, at a certain point, years after, he moves to London, starts going to the fringe festivals, and I follow him online because I genuinely, I thought he had the potential to be one of the greats, you know? But I watched him over there, and it seems like every single bridge he ever, and I relate with him on this way too, but almost every bridge he ever came to, or anybody that ever he associated with, he would end up burning them in some way, you know, biting the hand that feeds him. You know, I watched him over there getting headlines and being on BBC for coming out in support of Donald Trump. You know, he was, in many ways, we had so much in common. I was doing the same thing as him here in San Francisco, getting in trouble for that, and he was doing it in Great Britain. So I was like, oh, cool. You know, and at the same time, he decided to come out and live as a trans man and live as a woman. And even back then, this was like the 2016, 2015, I was still in my mode where I couldn't see how terrible it was all going to become. You know, so I was like trying to be supportive. You live how you want to live, you know. You just go ahead and do it, Will. You be the woman you want to be. I don't give a shit. If you want to wear a dress, wear a fucking dress. You know? If you want to talk in a high voice all day, you look terrible. You're literally the ugliest woman that ever could possibly be. You don't have the bone structure. You got a huge schnoz, you know. Your 5 o'clock shadow comes in at noon. You know, you're not you're not a beautiful woman, so knock yourself out. Anyway, he did that for probably about, I don't know, 6 or 7 months. He had a run-in with Eddie Izzard, and then he turned his back on it. I hate the fucking trans thing, and you know. But anyway, I just see I see him doing his things, and he puts together these comedy albums that, I'll tell you one other experience I had. Like, I really did think he was just really good at what he was doing. I was really entranced by the way he did his comedy. Long transitions, scenes from one to another, not a typical stand-up comic by any means. I remember taking an old roommate of mine to see one of his shows, and my roommate fell asleep while watching him. And I was mad at my roommate. I was like, what the fuck? How can you? You know, he's like, it's just not for me, you know. And he was calling it self-indulgence or whatever. And, but anyway, I've been watching him make these things, and then there's always some kind of drama. He goes to the Fringe Festival, a group will invite him in for being the person he is. In other words, he gets canceled by everybody because of his views on Donald Trump. But this small group of people accept him in, but then he embarrasses them and makes them the target. You know, and I'm watching this from afar, like over and over again, this thing, it's almost like this sabotage thing, and I kind of recognize it because I kind of do that same thing myself. Like anybody that ends up getting close to me, it's like a countdown to when they're going to be out the door. You know, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's me that's doing it. But when I look at him doing it, it looks like sabotage. It looks like, you know, hurting the people that want to help him. That's what it looks like from my point of view. And he's constantly in drama with somebody that has been his supporter. Like somebody that's in his corner. It seems like inevitably he always picks a fight with anybody. And if you're in his corner, you're going to be the next target. Like whoever's close, whoever's helping him, or help is relative, but whoever's attempting to help, whoever's offering and saying, I like you, I want what's good for you, I want what you want for yourself, I'm here for it. They become a target. So anyway, it's kind of one of those people. You kind of got to walk on eggshells. You don't know when you're going to set them off or say the wrong thing. In fact, when you're having a conversation with him, there is this sense that even the way he looks at you, there's a squinty, skeptical eye where he's waiting for you to say something that he doesn't agree with, because it's a launching point for his rant, And I relate with that too, a little bit, I don't like it when I recognize, sometimes, you recognize your bad traits in others, and it's cringy. That's a lot of my life is spent recognizing my bad traits in other people and getting sad about it. Like when I see it, like, oh, I probably do that. I think, I'm annoyed by people most who remind me of me. If somebody doesn't remind me of me, I'm less likely to be annoyed by them. Anyway, so Will definitely reminds me of me a lot of times. Anyway, the other day, so he's burned every single bridge. The guy's burned every single bridge. He finally found Patreon, and he's got a small list of people that send him $5-10 a month every month, and to work on his next comedy album, his next hour. And I'll be honest, for the last 5 or 6 years, I haven't been able to make it through any of these comedy albums. They start off great. I still recognize the humor. I still recognize this, but it's kind of like just another version of the same thing that I've already experienced. It's like if a band keeps producing remixes of the same song, different topic, whatever, but roughly sounds the same. The formula is the same. Anyway, his view counts are low on those things. They don't get shared. And the reason why I'm making this video is because he sometimes will I'm subscribed to him still, and he makes these videos for his Patreons, to show that he's doing the work. He's not just collecting a check and doing nothing. He's actually working on the next thing, which I buy to a degree. He is this kind of guy that's always making something, kind of like I'm always making. I recognize that in other people. I'm always making stuff. He's always making stuff, right? I don't have to beg anybody. I don't have to beg Patreon supporters, but, you do what you got to do. But so one of these comes up, and he's talking about, here's the thing that's always been the worst part about hanging out with this guy, is that if you're hanging out with this guy, you have to listen to almost most of it. Being a satirist, you kind of as a heads up, he's satirizing everything and everyone. And ultimately, it's just this superiority. You can't, if you want to have a conversation with him, you can't talk about another comedian or another movie that you liked. Because if you mention something that you liked or someone that was funny, it's like this competition. He has to tell you 1,000 different reasons why that thing isn't funny, even though he's never seen it or he claims to have not seen it. I can't watch other comedy. I don't want I want my comedy to be pure. I can't be affected by that kind of thing. And I'm like, oh my God, just fucking relax. Watch, it's like, I can't look at other paintings because I'm a painter. I can't listen to other songs because I'm a singer. Lots of annoying shit like that, just over endlessly. It's just, I can't do this and I'm superior, I'm superior, I'm superior. This I'm superior thing comes from a sense of inferiority, right? It really comes from an inferiority complex. I must attack my competition, even if I do or don't know about it. But, so anyway, he made this whole thing about how he can't do TikTok, and people who did TikTok are lame and, short attention spans. And he was trying to say, he said, I don't want to reward people for their short attention spans. And I'm like going, okay, I get it. I make arguments like that. It's, again, one of those moments where you just go, it's fine when it comes out of my mouth, but when it comes out of somebody else's mouth, I really don't like the way it sounds. So I sent him basically a nice little voicemail in response, because I don't think commenting in YouTube is the best way to communicate. I know him. I have his email. We used to talk all the time. So I sent him a voicemail. Another thing, he was making fun of grown adults that use emojis. Just all this holier than thou, superior, I'm the only person. You must communicate a long form text, and, you must have gone to Oxford or whatever the fucking stupid shit. So I sent him a voicemail saying, Chinese, all emojis, not a big deal. And I don't think that people have short attention spans. And first of all, there's nothing wrong with a one-liner. He was going on and on about how long, languid kind of storylines are the superior thing. And I just was making the point, look, there's a photograph and there's a film. There's a haiku, there's a novel, and a novelist can write a haiku. And a novelist doesn't need to make fun of a haiku. And a haiku writer doesn't need to make fun of a novelist. A photographer can enjoy a film, and a filmmaker can enjoy a photograph. A one-liner, a man that writes long transitional comedy can enjoy a one-liner. It's just like, if you don't want to do TikTok, then just say you don't want to do TikTok because it's just another thing and I don't want to do another thing. I don't want to do another thing. I don't do TikTok either. But my reasons are that I don't like the way they manipulate the algorithms to make people feel bad. That's why I don't do Instagram. I don't do Instagram because when I go on Instagram, 5 minutes on Instagram makes me sad. And so I don't want to go to Instagram because I don't want to be sad. Not because I'm better than people, although, anyway, I might be making an excuse there. Anyway, I've been thinking about this recently. So I sent him this voicemail. He doesn't respond. I think, maybe the email address has changed or whatever. But then his weekly update to his Patreons comes up again. And he's basically talking about my voicemail. And he characterizes me about this San Francisco man about town, wore flashy suits, he lived in a big house. And then he goes on to misrepresent my voicemail as if I got into AI, and if I talk like I'm a guy that's convinced that AI is the greatest thing in the whole world. And he just misrepresented my voicemail, completely. And he misrepresented me and the nature of our relationship, which is I was just some guy who seemed kind of cool when he was in San Francisco. Not that we hung out a lot, not that we were potentially collaborating, not that we had done photo shoots, not that we had hung out, that we went to protests together and did some performance art together. Not any of that, just this guy from San Francisco, who now is like promoting AI and loves Bill Gates, and just totally misrepresented me as if I'm some sort of tech guy. I don't know, San Francisco tech guy. I couldn't be further from it. I'm the pariah of San Francisco, fully canceled in every way. And he knows this because he pulled up, not to only deal with the voicemail, but he pulled up my Facebook and started pulling out little quotes from some of my headers on these little videos out of context to make his point that I was this guy that he was misrepresenting. He didn't name me. Anyway, so I'm kind of like listening to it, and I'm going, okay, this isn't right. He listened to my thing, and he hadn't responded to me directly. So he's responding to me online without using my name, misrepresenting me, and I'm thinking, that is just not cool. There's no reason for that. You easily could have just, Chinese, you're right. It is emojis. Chinese is emojis, and you're right. One-liners are good. It's hard to make a great one-liner. Sometimes it can take just as long to make a good one-liner as it takes to write a whole novel. Mark Twain, and he say it, sorry for the long note, but I ran out of time. So I think, okay, this might be a misrepresentation. So I go to his comment section on his YouTube, and I link to, he pulled a quote from one of my recordings, which was, "You are the gatekeeper." I doubt he listened to it. He just looked at the blurb. And he pulled out a quote that was, "You will be humbled anyway." And the point of that, the context of that quote is that with AI, it's making people less reliant on you. If you're a guitar player and you've been banking on the fact that somebody can't play guitar, and so they need you, and so you've been treating them, you've been using that as a power negotiation tool, like, you need me. In other words, you have to put up with my stink, Well, now that AI comes along, people don't have to put up with your shit. They don't need you anymore. Orchestra, people don't need you anymore. Now you have to shift your position into making people want to be around you, because they don't need you to accomplish a certain task. They can accomplish it without you. So now you have to shift gears and go, I got to negotiate with people and pitch them so that they want to be around me, Anyway, I leave a comment. I go, "Hi, I'm the guy that's mentioned here. I made a special YouTube video of the actual voicemail because he was misrepresenting it. I said, here's a link to that actual voicemail. Here is a link to a broader context of what I actually feel about AI. He's misrepresenting how I feel about AI. It's simply a tool, Anyway, the link, the comments, he deletes the comments. Right? He doesn't respond to me. I leave him another voicemail, I said, come on. And so I know he gets the voicemails. I know he's heard them. He's not responding, and he's just deleting my comments that give context to how he's misrepresenting me. So in other words, he doesn't want his listeners to be able to hear exactly what I actually said. He wants his misrepresentation of me to stand as the truth. That is low down, dirty bullshit, Will Franken. I'm fine with that. That's your little comment section. You can curate it however you want to. But if you think that I don't have the time to give to refute your misrepresentations, you're wrong, because I do have the time. I have the patience and I have the time to clear the record. Whether or not your listeners will ever hear it is another story. It's unlikely that they will, But if people search Will Franken, maybe this recording will come up, And I'll provide links to all this kind of stuff because I don't like it when people misrepresent me. I don't like it. It's not right. You're misrepresenting me. You're the one that has to live with yourself. If you're a liar and you're going around and you're doing that kind of stuff, you're the one that's got to live with yourself. That's a burden I don't wish. I understand that burden because, any lie that I've ever told, I have to live with. And sometimes you can compartmentalize them and sometimes they bother you. Years later, I'm still figuring out how to get a hold of Alan. I don't remember his last name, but he was my next door neighbor when I was 7, and I stole $7 silver from Alan when I was 7 that he earned by selling worms. And I stole them right off his bed. And I don't know his last name. I've searched, his address and tried to find who he was, but I just don't remember his last name. But I would like to return those $7 silver. Anyway, so yeah, that's kind of how that works. It's low down and dirty to not even allow somebody to clear the record. That's why censorship in Twitter is so bad. I get it. I ban people and block people all the time, but not because I lie about them and I don't want my people to find out about them. I block people because they're annoying. I'll block people because I don't like their shoes. I have a very itchy block finger. I don't have very much patience, so I don't have a problem with being blocked. But to try to preserve a misrepresentation or a lie, I'm being generous when I'm calling it a misrepresentation, because Will Franken is not a dumb man. He's a super smart guy. So I know he understands context. I know he understands when he's taking a quote out of context. I know when he's misrepresenting something, So anyway, is this petty? Maybe. But I've set my life up so that I can do this kind of shit, so that I can respond when people misrepresent me. It's not right. You just shouldn't do it. What else do I want to say? I think that was about it. Any other details I have about Will Franken? I've got more. I've got some more stories, sure. But we'll leave them for another day. Because I really, just like I said in my last voicemail to him, I'll link to the initial voicemail that he decided was this terrible criticism of his video. It wasn't. Simple little voicemail. Hey, emojis, Chinese, that's emojis, haikus, photographs, films, attention span. Oh, I also mentioned, I said, people have longer attention spans than they ever have. They're growing. Yes, TikTok is short attention span. But are you kidding me? Lex Friedman posted a 10-hour interview with some dude the other day. People are regularly listening to 4-hour interviews. They're regularly binging entire seasons of whatever, Netflix series or whatever you want to say. People have long attention spans. I think I already said this on my last recording. But yeah, when people throw out bullshit arguments, I tend to just go, no, that's bullshit. And when I'm wrong, I admit it. And when I'm right, I can't shut up. I can't do it. I don't have that capability. The Lord did not bless me with the ability to shut up when somebody's misrepresenting me. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. Oh, wait, hold on. Before I go, I just realized it's easier for me to just put my voicemail to Will, my initial voicemail to Will, right here. And here it goes, starting now. Speaking of being an old guy and doing things the old way, I actually think that voice communication is important, so I don't like communicating with text. So I'm even a step further removed from emojis. And by the way, emojis, hello, Chinese. It's an entire language based on emojis, so emojis in and of themselves are not bad. I see you wearing a yin-yang symbol. A lot of power can be reduced into one symbol. Huge concept, one symbol. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention. Photograph, film. Is a photograph, I don't know, has no value because of a short attention span? Is a film, the only value? You know, a haiku versus a novel? Does a haiku have no value? Is it only about a novel? The way I see it, quality, it can be applied to anything. And so can shit. Shit can be smeared on anything. Shit can be smeared for a mile down the road, or it can just be a little dump on the sidewalk. One little turd. Length has very little to do with it. And I don't buy that people don't have long attention spans. They do. Long content is more popular than ever right now. People will sit through a 3-hour podcast of somebody talking about things. People listen to your things, People have long attention spans, They have shorter attention spans for things that don't measure up, And I think a lot of times when people complain about attention spans, what they're really complaining about is that they feel entitled to more attention from one person. I need your attention, but that's up to the artist to do that. That's up to the artist to be able to convince somebody to keep listening. Nobody owes anybody their full attention. There's a lot of things competing for attention right now. That doesn't mean that everybody has a short attention span. It means that there's a competition. Who can get the interest? Who can get somebody to pay attention for a long time? Because Lord knows people have an appetite for long form content more than ever. Where there are countless 4 and 5 hour podcasts. There are streamers that stream all day long and people will watch them. They have long attention spans. So anyway, I just had to blast a couple of your arguments out of the water because they were just a little bit pretentious. But anyway, other than that, we largely agree. Anyway, that's the end of that voicemail. I will link to the pertinent videos. I've never done this before, but I'll link to the pertinent videos below. So if you're interested in seeing how he misrepresented our relationship and my voicemail, I will link to that video, and you can find the subsequent video, if there is one, on your own. Thanks for listening. Unnecessary outro song to totally waste more